You're listening to the Briony Kennedy Lifestyle Edit, brought to you by Adorn Cosmetics. And welcome back to the Briony Kennedy Lifestyle Edit. My name is Jack Thatcher, and of course I'm joined by Briony Kennedy.
Hello.
How are you?
Welcome back. I'm good. Yep. I'm good. Another 3 a.m. start though, I have to say. These fun mornings I'm having.
You should be doing breakfast radio.
Correct. Yes, that's exactly right. Absolutely. But we're here.
We are indeed. And we're really excited because we have our first guest that we've had. So I'm going to hand it over to you shortly to have a chat with the lovely Briony Croft who's joined us today. He's going to talk to us about all things fashion. It's very exciting, and I'm going to hand it over to you now, Briony.
I've known you now for, 13 years, I suppose.
It's going to be about,
And we met at a networking event, sat next to each other. It was very interesting because I'm Briony, you're Briony, spelt the same, so it confused everybody there. And what I got to learn very quickly from you was that you have a passion for all things image, and you were one of my first Adorn consultants back in the day.
I was. Back when I had the idea that I wanted to build this business around image, I needed to make sure that I also had an income.
Yes.
And I was one of your very first, if not first.
I think you were. Yeah. I think it was, here's an opportunity for you to earn a bit of money while you're setting yourself up with what you truly wanted to do.
Yep.
And the two Bs, the Brionies and the Brionies, were out there paving the and just out there teaching makeup. And here we go, 15 years later, and you are now fully fledged in your own amazing career. And I wanted to have you here because, like me, I'm sure there's other people out there that would love to know what it means to be an image consultant or an image stylist, or as probably what a lot of people refer to it as, a stylist.
Yes.
Now, I wanted you to clarify what it is that you do, which is, I think, quite different and unique to maybe what I've heard a lot of stylists do.
Yeah. It's a very good question, and there's a lot to this. So there's a number of different, I suppose, sub-jobs within this industry. So there is a fashion stylist, there is a personal shopper, there is an image consultant, and what I like to refer myself as is more of an image specialist. So I'm specialising in the concept of personal branding and how a consistent personal brand for an individual can enhance career growth and career projection.
So would that be very much around personality then? Is that what, because I think for, layman's terms, people might be thinking branding, well, I don't need a brand.
Yeah.
So would they then think, okay, it's my personality, that's the brand that you're trying to evoke for these people. Is that right?
It's part of it. I think it's actually a lot more complex than that. So I agree. This idea of being a brand as a concept of marketing is a really challenging way of thinking when you're thinking about yourself as an individual.
Yeah.
But what I would say is you are your best marketing tool. So how you're choosing to show up, be it the way you talk, the way you walk, the way you choose to present, is ultimately going to have an effect on what opportunities come your way and what opportunities you choose to take.
Agree, yeah.
So I suppose the concept of there's many facets of an image. So it actually goes back to, first of all, you need to do the professional and personal development to understand what it is that you're actually trying to achieve with.
And this is the person that's wanting to.
This is the person.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's not even looking at fashion. So if you want to look at fashion and you just want to dress in a way that is contemporary, on trend, all of that kind of thing, then you would be looking at a fashion stylist or a personal shopper, because you're only dealing with the trends, you're only going to the stores to pick pieces to...
Which could be laborious because you're constantly then having to, if you're not sure of yourself and maybe what it is you're trying to project, whether it is personality or your brand, you're going to have to constantly be doing that because you're not understanding the fundamentals about yourself either.
Absolutely. Personality is part of your brand though. If you're not dressing for your personality, you're going to feel like you're dressing for somebody else.
Absolutely.
So it is really important to understand what your personality is, but it's also understand what how do you want to influence? Who are you influencing?
Yeah.
How might what's your impression management strategy around that? It's a really important, there's many different facets that you want to look at before you look at the fashion side of things and the clothing you're choosing to wear.
So I'm sure the individuals that come to you see a huge value in this because they're obviously in a situation or a dynamic or a profession that this is important. But what do you say to those that maybe should care but maybe don't? Maybe they think that people should just take them for who they are and what I wear should just be not important. You should just take me as I am and people should employ me regardless of what I'm wearing and people should take me serious regardless of what I'm wearing.
Okay, so what I would say is, first of all, are you feeling confident in what you're wearing? Because I would often find with people that I've worked with before when they are kind of brushing the topic of image to the side, there's often some confidence problems or like the way that they see themselves.
Yes.
Might be some questions around that.
Yeah.
But I would also refer to the concept of first impressions and the psychology of image. So when you're seeing somebody walk down the street, humans are judgmental.
Yeah.
We are very judgmental.
Yeah.
So if we're seeing somebody walk down the street that has the same intellect, has the same position, one is presenting really well and one is looking a little bit scruffy, we are automatically, from a professional sense, going to assume that the person who's dressed well is going to do a better job.
Yeah, and I would agree with that, and I would like to think that I'm the least non-judgmental person when it comes to people. I think that I take people on their merit and their I suppose personalities and their attitude, but you do look at people, especially when I've been interviewing people. So from my perspective, there's two things I'll look at is how they're put together, and I might not love what they're wearing, but it's still how they've put it together. Is there a bra strap hanging out and it's all twisted and, is there a tag hanging out the back? You're looking a bit dishevelled. It's the finer details that I'll look at. And I also do look at how fast someone walks towards this is a whole different dynamic of conversation, but I do look at how fast someone walks to my meeting table when I'm first interviewing someone, because if they're meandering on, that's my perception that you're a bit too relaxed for my liking for this role. And you do judge people based on what they're capable of. Yep. And those finer details that they're putting together.
Message.
Yeah, that's it.
It's a really subconscious message. So if you are the effects of when you are presenting well and you feel good about yourself is that you are going to give a very different energy across to the people that you're talking to, and you will in most cases come across as a little bit more authoritarian in what you're saying, because you know what you're talking about. You're holding yourself in a way that is projecting a sense of confidence. So the person that you're talking with is going to trust you.
Yes.
And if you can build the trust with individuals from the very get-go, that's where you create incredible relationships, personal and professional, that can keep developing and create these opportunities for you. And that is why I've always believed the image, because it is the first thing that most people will notice, is so powerful if you get it right and you do it authentically.
And I would almost take it a little bit further too, because I know when you and I worked together doing the makeup classes, and I had the same, I suppose, block with people where it was, I don't wear makeup, I can't be bothered. People should just love me for who I am. And yes, that's right. They should.
Absolutely.
But the way I approached it with a few people was, I want you to think about the days that you've got your makeup on and you feel that you look amazing, as opposed to the day that you've gone out to the shops and thought, I'm just going to chuck on some sunnies, and then someone you meet catches your eye and you're chatting with them, and the whole time you're not present, because the whole time you're thinking, they're looking at my pimple, they're looking at my black bags, oh my God, I've got my pyjama pants on.
Yep.
So you're not in the present moment because you are actually concerned about how you are looking at that moment in time. And I'd take that one step further, that if you are in that, not even just being caught out, but if you're not confident maybe to figure out what it is you're going to wear, or maybe confident to wear a little bit of makeup, you are sort of hiding behind, tucking your hair and, I better put my glasses on. And I think you're so wrapped up in not feeling good about yourself.
Yes, I I couldn't agree more.
You're not present because you're just so feeling like, oh, I don't look as good as she does or him, or, oh, my jacket's this or my hair. Oh. And I think you don't realise, and it's not about being vain, it's about you're not able to be present when you're not feeling confident. And would that be how you're taking this image?
Absolutely. It's an opportunity and it's part of your toolkit. So why would you not want to
feel good?
Be your best and feel good. But also, I think a lot of the time people can confuse the idea of looking good and feeling good with, well, I always have to dress up. That's not the case.
Correct.
You can have a wonderful casual wardrobe and athleisure wear, if you want to call it that. That is still part of your identity. It's still part of your personal brand. And look the part and be the person that you want to be.
Absolutely.
And it's the same with makeup. You don't have to have a full face of makeup, but if it's something that makes you feel good and it is something that represents who you are, then why wouldn't you use that?
Absolutely.
It's a really good tool to have in your back pocket.
So what would you say the steps are for, I think there's two areas here. What would the steps be when you're dealing with a new client? Like, how do you take them through this? And then what about those that maybe can't either reach you specifically or an image branding specialist? What could they do themselves maybe? So what can they do when they're working with you, or what do you do? And then what can someone do if they want to try and embark on this themselves?
Yeah. So what I would say when people come to see me, I obviously specialise in this field, so I'm very good at picking up social cues from individuals.
And you work with men and women?
Men and women, and they're typically they have a high-level personal brand, so that means that they might be in media, they might be the face of their brand and run a business, or they might be quite high up in the corporate world. So they're the individuals who are influencing people is what I would say that the people that I work with. However, the concept is the same no matter where you are within your professional or personal careers. So the first and foremost, you need to understand who you are. So ask yourself the questions of, where am I now, but where do I want to be? Because I would always say, dress for where you want to be, as long as it's still being authentic to who you are and you can see that as a version of yourself, and try not to be influenced by what you're seeing around you. Yeah. So, for example, if you're working in an office and you know that you want to take the next step to mid-level management or wherever it might be, don't necessarily dress the way that you're seeing your leaders dress. You need to do that, the personal development where you really figure out what it is that you're wanting to do within your careers. Great tools to use once you've figured out what that is Pinterest. You need to create some mood boards.
Love Pinterest. Yeah.
Whether it's clothing or whether it's a feeling, whether it's a colour, anything that kind of attracts you, there's a reason.
I think that's a really good point that you're making there to give them that as a tool, because I would say that it'd be quite confronting for some people to admit how they may want to look or feel, because they maybe think, I've got no right to look like that. So I think if that was me, that Pinterest, it's kind of like taking it away. Like, this is my goal, but I don't feel so bad because I'm showing you it, rather than saying what I want to look like. Yes. Would you feel that you get that people feel that confrontation around themselves? Yeah,
definitely. And there might be small steps that you take over the next couple of years to get yourself to that image point that you foresee for yourself. And that's where I actually step in as the consultant side of thing, because I can figure out, based on the images that you've chosen, what's the consistent story through here. When I ask you questions, so Briony, if you were to have, let's say 40 images pinned, I would ask you, what's your top 5? And I'd ask you questions like, what is it about this image that is attracting you? And you might say it's the way that person is holding themselves. And then the other one might be it's the pair of trousers that she's wearing. Yeah. But there is always a consistent storyline of the images that you've picked. And some of them will be a little bit more uncomfortable for you to talk about, and some you'll feel quite confident and comfortable talking about right then. So then that's my job to find the happy medium, because I don't want to dress you in pieces that you're just comfortable in.
Yeah.
I want to make you feel a little bit like, I'm not uncomfortable, but I'm taking a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
And that's what I would say to the listeners is you need to make sure that you're creating this image and creating the storyline for your wardrobe that makes you feel like you're taking a step.
Absolutely.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely does. Because I think, we can all look at things that we want to wear or want to project. But I do think, as we speak about this in the business world, there's that whole imposter syndrome, and I feel that would be very much relevant on a day-to-day basis with everybody, feeling that I'm not good enough to be wearing that. I think there are some individuals that probably are quite confident, but often you'll see people that might be wearing beautiful clothes, but they're letting the clothes wear them too.
Absolutely.
There's that. So, I often will go out with my husband and we'll see people, lining up for nightclubs. Jesus, who would be? I'm glad I'm over that now. But anyway, you're seeing all these people looking gorgeous, but they're not holding themselves well.
Yeah.
They're feeling uncomfortable. And I think it gets back to what you were saying before, that these people are dressing for fashion.
Yes.
They're not creating a style for themselves.
Yes.
So what's the difference?
Yeah. So fashion is basically your following. So fashion is what we're seeing in media. Fashion is what's obviously the trend forecast, whereas style is you are choosing to influence. So you do, based on what's available to us, we still have to pick what items we want to purchase from a store. But rather than following the trend, we're looking at these garments and saying, do they actually fit in with what we've already created in our wardrobes and how we want to represent ourselves, and manipulate the trend to suit you.
Yes.
Rather than the trend influencing you in a way that you'll just put it on because that's what everybody else is doing, and that keeps you cool and modern.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I also think too in that respect, because I tend to have a very diverse way of dressing.
I would agree with that.
Yes, you've seen my wardrobe. There's no consistency around how I dress.
But that is the consistency.
Yes.
Because that's created a message of
you don't know what to expect.
You're a bit unexpected as far as because I know you as a friend as well. You're outgoing. You are a person that I know that I can rely on to be a little bit unique in the way that you think.
Yeah.
And that is represented through what you choose to wear.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, that's a nice way of putting it. Don't you smile, Jack, over there. Listen here. But for me, I'm very much drawn to colour. So it's all about colour. But yes, when there's something that comes out, I've never been drawn to fashion, but if I find that there is something that's fashionable at that point, I may buy that, but of course it has to sort of mix with what I'm already wearing or what I've already got. And I think the perception for some people is that they've got to get everything that's in fashion and then they'll look good. And it looks so obvious.
Far from the truth.
Yeah, it is, because it looks so obvious that you've just pulled everything that's fashionable or so-called fashionable and you've tried to put it all together, and that's where I think it starts to wear you.
Yes.
And I think there's also that perception around people thinking they've got to spend a lot of money. And I'm not an advocate for supporting fast fashion, but I also think that, you don't need to spend a huge amount of money to create your style or your brand either.
No, you don't. You definitely don't. You just need to, what I would say is you just need to actually purchase good quality and like you said, you don't have to pay a lot of money for good quality, but you just do want to make sure that you've got pieces that are actually going to last more than 2 years.
Yes.
So you can build a really strong base for your wardrobe that is you can add to. So you need to have what I would actually suggest, and is something that could definitely be added. First of all, when you're purchasing an item, it must go with a minimum of 4 other pieces within your wardrobe.
Okay, that's a good tip.
Otherwise, just don't buy it because you're not going to get the wear out of it, and you're going to feel like it's a little bit out of place in your wardrobe.
Yeah, that's a good tip.
And then the other one is choose a base colour palette of 3 tones. So, for example, a really obvious one would be black, white and beige. Those 3 colours all mixed together, no matter what you choose to put top and bottom, it will always go. So you're going to find if you have 15 items in your wardrobe in just those 3 colours, you'll be able to easily get minimum 40 outfits from that.
Yeah, that's a really good tip. Yeah.
And that's why you don't need to spend a lot of money on clothing. You just need to be smart about what you're purchasing and try not to go out and browse.
Yeah.
As soon as you go out and start browsing, that's where you get temptations to purchase things that actually just aren't right. And you're looking at a price rather than an actual item that's going to work back in with what you've got, that's consistent with what you've got.
So when an individual comes to you and they have done that homework around, maybe it's the Pinterest and they're sort of trying to create or get comfortable with who they are, then what's the next step? Is that something that you would then go and teach them how to shop for that new brand or image they're creating? And then is there tools that they have that they could then do that themselves later on? Is that...
Yeah. So for my clients, I actually go and source all of the pieces and I essentially bring it to one location, and there is a full half day of literally trying on everything.
Wow.
And making sure that it's telling the right story, it's resonating with that individual. But then obviously I'm looking at proportion and making sure that the clothing that we're choosing is actually the right fit, I suppose, for as far as literal fit of clothing for a body shape.
Yeah, okay.
And as far as doing it on your own, like I said before, it's more about having a really succinct list of what you want to add. So, you can Google, what are the top pieces for a base wardrobe, but I would make sure that you understand what you like to wear first, because a lot of those would be you need one pair of trousers, you need one pair of jeans.
Quite generic, yeah.
Yes. If you don't actually like wearing jeans, well, what's the alternative?
Yeah.
Yeah. But roughly I would say you need to have 4 bottoms, you need to have, I would say, 8 tops and a couple of jackets to have a good circular wardrobe for yourself.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Because I think too with styling, I think yes, it's good to have your key pieces, but I think that's also a good tip is to know what it is that you want to project, but also what is the key things that you're comfortable with as well to wear and try and work around that. So for me, like I can't stand wearing skirts or anything that I can feel that's tight around it's a sensory issue for me.
Midriff?
Yeah, I just can't, I don't know, I just don't like the feel of it. So for me, I'm very much about pants and or all-in-one dresses.
Yep.
So for me, yes, there's probably some skirts that I could wear, but I'm not comfortable with them. So it's
so why would you wear them?
Correct. So there's also that element of not having to feel that you need to wear a particular thing either.
Yeah,
just because, you feel that you should. I mean, I think finding what you're comfortable with also, of course, the brand that you're trying to project. So look, a lot of what you've said is really, really valuable, I think, and it all comes back to the fact that people need to get very clear on themselves as people and work on that and then feel, or maybe not feel confident, but learn to go with that uncomfortable feeling for a bit until you are comfortable with this brand and this image that you're projecting.
And I think we need to remember we as individuals change, we evolve. So your image needs to evolve with it. So if you're still wearing what you wore at the end of high school and you're now in your mid-30s.
And that goes for makeup too, people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You need to look at evolving because you will feel a different sense of confidence. You're in a different stage of life.
That's it. Yeah.
So
and look, and I think, Briony, to wrap it up, I think that what we need to remember, and this is what I tell some of my friends and even my sisters who I know sometimes can be a little bit lacking in confidence with what they're wearing, is the fact that everyone only gives a shit about themselves. Yeah. You're at a party or a wedding or you're at work and everybody is worrying about their own body shape, their own hair, their own makeup, their own, does this shirt look okay? Everybody's so wrapped up in their own, not from a selfish or a vain perspective, but from some kind of an insecurity that they're not noticing the things that you're noticing about yourself. So just remember that everybody feels like that if that at least helps you get through the day, that think that they've got the same thoughts as you. So, look, I'd love to wrap it up, first of all, by saying thank you so much for explaining this, because I'm sure there's so many people that have been like, what is image, what is branding, what is fashion and styling. How do people find you, Briony, if they want to reach out?
So probably the easiest way is on Instagram. There's actually on my Instagram, there's quite a few little tips about, I would say probably more fashion stuff, but then also the psychology of image, which we briefly touched on today. So Instagram's a good one. Of course, the website, which is just brionycroft.com.au.
Yep.
And then LinkedIn as well. I'm there as well.
And I love, just before we go, I love your Instagram where you're stepping in and out of different clothes and you're showing all the different pieces that can be mixed and matched. And so, look, I think, even if someone's in a different state to Victoria and they can't access you, I think just checking out your Instagram, because it's inspirational from that point of view. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Look forward to our next episode with you, which is all about sustainability.
You've been listening to the Briony Kennedy Lifestyle Edit, brought to you by Dawn Cosmetics. Luxury without the guilt.